The Varkun Empire had always considered humans a weak and unimportant species. Their soldiers often joked about humans, their culture, and the strange stories they told. On a cold metal planet in the outer sector, a group of alien soldiers gathered in a large briefing hall. The room was huge, filled with rows of seats and a large screen showing star charts and mission data. The air hummed with conversation, laughter, and occasional shouting. Many of the young recruits were eager to show how strong and smart they were. They laughed loudly at human myths. Some mocked stories of ghost soldiers who returned from death. Others joked about tales of strange human creatures who could survive impossible situations. Every story made the aliens laugh harder. Some of the veterans only shook their heads. They had fought humans before and knew they could be stubborn, but they had never taken the myths seriously. At the front of the hall stood Captain Mara, the Empire's greatest warrior. She was tall, muscular, and calm. She rarely spoke, but when she did, everyone listened. Her armor was sleek and clean, and her eyes were sharp and serious. Mara had fought many battles, won many wars, and defeated countless enemies. Yet today, she sat quietly while the younger soldiers made jokes. One recruit, a thin and nervous alien named Kiro, laughed the loudest. "You hear this?" he said, pointing at the holoscreen. "Humans think one soldier can fight 100. 100. That is impossible. They are just weak animals, telling stories to feel brave." The other recruits laughed even louder. Some stomped their feet and clapped their claws. "Yes, weak animals. Can you imagine thinking one human could stop an entire squad of us?" said another recruit. A bigger alien named Garan. Near the back of the hall, a human liaison officer stood quietly. His name was Ethan Brooks. He was one of the few humans allowed to work closely with the Varkun Empire. He was tall but lean, with short brown hair and calm brown eyes. He did not laugh at the jokes. He had learned long ago that arguing with aliens about human myths was dangerous. Most aliens did not respect human strength or courage. Ethan knew. It was better to listen and wait. The room grew louder as the young aliens told more stories. Some described how humans supposedly survived attacks from dangerous creatures. Others mocked human heroes who faced impossible odds. Mara sat silently, her hands folded on her lap. Her face did not show anger, but there was a quiet intensity in her eyes. She did not laugh. She did not smile. She only watched. Finally, one recruit shouted, "I bet these humans would run and hide if they faced a real army. I mean, look at them on the holovids, they are always crying, always scared." The laughter grew again. Even some of the older soldiers smiled, though they tried not to show it. They had always thought humans were weak. The Varkun Empire had defeated many human colonies in the past. Why would anyone take them seriously? But Mara did not join the laughter. She stayed still and calm, her mind elsewhere. She remembered a mission from many years ago, on a small human colony at the edge of the galaxy. She and her squad had been sent to capture the settlement quickly. They expected humans to surrender without a fight. They expected a simple mission. But what happened there had stayed with her ever since. The human soldiers fought harder than anything Mara had ever seen. Even when outnumbered and outgunned, they did not give up. She had watched them survive attacks that should have killed them. She had seen humans run into danger without hesitation to save others. For the first time in her career, Mara had understood that human strength was not measured by size or power. It was something else, something difficult to explain. Mara shifted slightly in her seat. Her quiet presence drew the attention of the younger soldiers. They noticed she was not smiling, and the energy in the room changed. Kiro, the nervous recruit, stopped laughing for a moment. He looked at Mara and felt a sudden chill. "You there," Mara said, her voice calm but firm. Stop mocking things you do not understand. You are young, and you have not fought them. You do not know what humans are capable of. Listen carefully. This is not a joke. The room fell silent. The aliens did not expect their captain to speak in this way. Mara's reputation alone demanded respect. Even the loudest recruits were quiet now. They leaned forward, curious and slightly afraid. Mara rarely told stories from her battles. When she did, her words carried truth. She began speaking slowly, choosing her words carefully. Many of you laugh at human myths. You say they are weak, that their stories are false. But you are wrong. I have seen humans in battle. I have seen them do things no creature should be able to do. They do not have magic. They do not have weapons stronger than ours. They have something else. Something you cannot measure with scanners or statistics. Kiro whispered to Garan. What is she talking about? Humans are small. How can they do anything? Garan shrugged, but his ears twitched nervously. He had fought humans before and survived, but he had never faced one alone. Something in Mara's voice made him uneasy. Mara continued. On a human colony, my squad faced a single soldier. By all logic, he should have died early. He should have surrendered. But he did not. He held a position alone. He fought us with skill and courage. Every attack we made, he survived. Every blow, he stood again. I watched him. I tried to defeat him. He should have fallen. He did not. Ethan's hand tightened slightly. He remembered the story of Alex Carter, the human Mara had described in secret reports. Few aliens had ever witnessed it firsthand. The recruits shifted uncomfortably. They had laughed before, but now the laughter was gone. Mara's words painted a picture of a human who was different from anything they had expected. They could see the image in their minds, a small, determined soldier standing alone against a squad of trained alien warriors. Mara's voice grew softer, almost sad. We call them myths. You call them stories. I call them warnings. Do not think humans are weak. Do not think their courage can be measured by their size. Some of them have strength beyond what we can imagine. And I have seen it with my own eyes. A quiet murmur ran through the room. The young recruits looked at each other, unsure what to say. Even the older soldiers were silent. Mara had broken through their arrogance. She had challenged everything they thought they knew. Ethan stepped forward slightly, though he did not speak. He wanted to see how the aliens would react. He had seen humans do remarkable things before. But hearing an alien of Mara's reputation confirm it made a difference. The recruits were no longer mocking. They were listening. Mara leaned back in her seat, her eyes scanning the room. She had said enough for now. The silence was heavy, filled with thought and reflection. The young aliens were no longer laughing. They were imagining humans standing against impossible odds, refusing to fall. Finally, Mara said, remember this. You will face humans in your missions. Some of you will underestimate them. Some of you will mock their stories. Those of you who do not listen will be surprised. And some of you may not survive. The hall remained quiet. Mara's words sank deep into the minds of every recruit. The story of one human soldier had already changed the way they thought. They had mocked myths, but now they were wondering if humans were capable of things even the Varkun Empire could not understand. Kiro broke the silence with a small, uncertain voice. Captain, do you think humans are stronger than us? Mara looked at him steadily. I do not know if they are stronger in body, but they are stronger in ways you cannot see. Never forget that. And never make the mistake of thinking a human is weak just because they are small or different. The briefing ended shortly after. The recruits filed out quietly, speaking in low voices. Mara stayed behind, looking at the star charts. She thought of the human soldier, of his courage, and his determination. She thought of how dangerous humans could be when they refused to fall. Ethan followed her silently. He wanted to thank her, but he knew words were not necessary. Mara had done more than he could. She had changed the way the aliens thought. She had turned their laughter into respect, and maybe a little fear. Outside the hall, the cold winds of the planet blew across the metal surface. Mara and Ethan watched the recruits leave. She knew the story would stay with them. Even if they did not understand it fully, they would remember the warning. Humans were not to be underestimated. And Mara, the greatest warrior of the Varkun Empire, had spoken the truth for the first time in many years. Some myths were real. The planet was small and cold, far from the main trade routes of the galaxy. It had a few human settlements, small cities made of metal and stone. The humans had not built many defenses because they did not expect an attack. But Mara knew that appearances could be deceiving. The humans could be more dangerous than they looked. Her squad landed quietly near the outskirts of the largest settlement. Mara scanned the area carefully with her sensors. The streets were empty. Buildings were small and close together. Everything seemed calm, almost peaceful. But she knew better. Mara had fought many species before, and she had learned that silence often came before a storm. Her squad of Varkun soldiers moved in formation. They were trained to attack with precision, to strike quickly, and finish a mission without mistakes. Mara's team was strong and fast. Every soldier carried advanced weapons, armor that could withstand extreme temperatures, and tools to break into any building. They were confident. They expected the humans to be weak, afraid, and easy to defeat. Then Mara saw him. He was a young human soldier, barely older than a teenager, standing alone in the center of a street. His uniform was simple, and his weapon looked smaller than theirs. Mara remembered the first moment she saw him. His brown eyes calm, his posture straight, as if he was ready for anything. His name, she later learned, was Alex Carter. Her squad laughed quietly at first. They thought the human looked fragile and unarmed. Kira whispered to Garen, "Look at him. He is tiny. He cannot last 5 minutes." Mara did not say anything. She studied Alex carefully. There was something in his eyes, a determination that she could not ignore. The squad moved forward. Mara led the attack. They opened fire, using their advanced energy weapons. The air around the human lit up with sparks and flashes. Smoke rose from the streets. Buildings shook from the explosions. But Alex did not fall. He ducked, rolled, and moved between cover. His movements were fast and precise. Mara watched, surprised. She had expected him to be easy to hit. She had expected him to panic. But he did not. He fought with calm and control, even as the squad advanced. One of the young Varkun soldiers, Trell, fired a powerful blast directly at Alex. Mara expected him to collapse, but he only stumbled slightly. Then he jumped behind a small wall, raised his weapon, and fired back. The shot missed, but Mara noticed that his aim was steady. He was focused. He did not show fear. Mara felt something she had not felt in years. Respect. This human, small and young, was facing her squad without fear. He was doing what Mara herself did in battle, calculating, precise, and determined. The squad tried to surround him. They attacked from 3 sides, hoping to overwhelm him. Mara herself moved forward to strike. She was careful, precise, and silent. She aimed to end the fight quickly. But Alex did not flee. Instead, he fought back. Mara remembered every detail. The human used the environment well. He climbed walls, jumped over obstacles, and used small pieces of debris as cover. He dodged every attack with skill and courage. He was not just surviving. He was controlling the fight. Every move was smart and efficient. Mara fired her weapon. The beam hit him directly. She expected him to fall. But instead, he stumbled, smiled faintly, and raised his weapon again. She could not believe her eyes. "Impossible," she whispered under her breath. Her squad was watching too. Some soldiers froze, unsure what to do. This human should have been defeated long ago. Alex shouted something in his language, a command to the civilians nearby. Mara saw people hiding in the buildings. The human was protecting them. He risked himself to save others. His actions were reckless, but brave. Mara realized then that this was not a fight for power or territory. This human was fighting to protect his people. The Varkun soldiers grew frustrated. They had never faced an enemy who would not give up. Mara could see fear in some of the younger recruits. They had laughed at human myths. But now, they were beginning to understand. Mara continued her attack. But she noticed something strange. Each time they hit him, Alex seemed to move with more energy, not less. His steps were slower, but his resolve was stronger. He seemed to draw power from somewhere she could not see. She tried to hit him directly with a stronger weapon. The blast should have ended the fight. The ground shook. Buildings cracked. Smoke filled the air. Mara watched closely. Alex fell to the ground. For a moment, she thought the battle was over. Then he stood again. The human stood tall, ignoring his injuries. He raised his weapon with determination. Mara could feel her own hands shake slightly. She had faced many strong enemies, but she had never seen someone survive like this. Her squad stopped moving. They did not understand. Trell whispered, "Captain, he is still alive." Mara nodded silently. She did not answer. She only watched. Alex continued to fight. Every time he was injured, he recovered quickly. Every time he fell, he got back up. Mara realized something important. This human soldier was not ordinary. He was something else, something beyond her understanding. The battle continued for hours. Mara's squad grew tired. Their weapons needed recharging. Their armor was damaged. But Alex never gave up. He ran, jumped, and fired with energy she could not explain. He used clever tricks, traps, and the environment itself to his advantage. Every move was perfect. Mara realized that Alex was not fighting with strength alone. He was fighting with willpower, courage, and determination. He refused to give up, no matter what happened. Mara had never seen such strength in any species before. At one point, Mara tried to approach him directly. She wanted to see what made him so strong. She closed in, her weapon ready. Alex looked at her calmly. There was no fear in his eyes, only determination. Mara aimed, fired, and expected him to fall. But he smiled. He smiled at her. That small gesture shocked Mara. She had never seen an enemy smile at her in battle. It was not a mocking smile. It was calm, confident, and fearless. Mara felt a chill run through her body. She realized something. This human was not afraid. He had accepted his situation. He had accepted the danger. Yet he continued to fight. Mara understood then why humans told stories about soldiers like this. They were not myths. They were true. The squad finally managed to corner Alex in a narrow alley. Mara stepped forward, her weapon ready. She expected a final fight. She expected him to fall. But Alex stood firm. He raised his weapon one last time. Then something strange happened. A white mist appeared around him. The air seemed to shimmer. Mara felt warmth, as if the human was creating something she could not explain. Her squad backed away, unsure what to do. Alex did not fall. He stood, calm and strong. Mara fired again. This time, her weapon grazed him, but he did not collapse. He only smiled faintly and raised his weapon higher. The Varkuan soldiers panicked. They had never faced anything like this. Some fled. Others froze. Mara alone stayed. She watched. She could not believe what she was seeing. After what felt like minutes, Alex finally lowered his weapon. He had not run. He had not surrendered. But he had achieved his goal. The civilians were safe. He had defended his home. Mara felt something she could not explain. Respect. Fear. Admiration. She lowered her weapon too. Her squad looked at her, confused. Mara said nothing. She only nodded slightly. She had learned something important. Humans were not weak. They were not myths. They were capable of courage beyond what she had imagined. That night, Mara reported to the Empire. She did not explain everything she had seen. Some of it seemed impossible. She only wrote the facts. One human soldier had survived a squad of Varkun warriors, protected civilians, and refused to give up. Mara knew she would never forget him. Alex Carter had changed the way she thought about humans. They were not just small, weak animals. They had strength, courage, and willpower that even the greatest warriors could not defeat. When she returned to the Varkun capital, Mara kept the story in her mind. She rarely spoke of it. She knew that most of her colleagues would not believe it. But she also knew the truth. Humans were not to be underestimated. The young recruits, who had laughed at human myths, would never understand the full story. Only Mara knew what she had seen. Only she had faced a human who refused to fall. And deep down, Mara realized something else. This was only one human. There were many more like him. The Empire had underestimated an entire species, and that mistake could cost them everything. After the battle on the small human colony, Mara returned to the Varkun Empire with a story that no one wanted to hear. Most of the council believed humans were weak, small, and easy to defeat. Many soldiers had laughed at her when she first hinted that a human could survive a squad of Varkun warriors. Yet Mara knew the truth, and it burned in her mind. Alex Carter had survived what should have been impossible. He had stood alone against trained soldiers, outnumbered, outgunned, and out-armored. Mara could still picture his calm eyes, his steady aim, his defiant smile. She had fought hundreds of species in her career, but she had never seen courage like his. Not only that, but she had seen something she could not explain. An almost otherworldly endurance. Mara's report to the council was short and factual, but in private, she told the story in detail to the younger recruits under her command. They had gathered in the same briefing hall where the myths were mocked before. Mara's calm voice filled the room. And for once, there was no laughter. Even the loudest recruits were quiet. "You laughed at humans," Mara said, "because you thought they were weak. You thought their stories were false. You were wrong. One human soldier, alone, stopped my squad. He survived every attack. He defended his people. He refused to fall." The recruits whispered among themselves. Kiro, who had mocked humans before, felt his stomach tighten. He had been sure he could defeat a human. Now, he was not so sure. Mara continued. "I tried to strike him down many times. I aimed at him with my weapon. I used every attack in my arsenal. He should have fallen immediately. Every soldier in my squad thought he would die. But he did not. He moved, he fought, he survived." The recruits listened carefully, eyes wide. Some of them had fought humans before, and had seen resistance. But they had never seen anything like this. Mara's words painted a picture that was difficult to imagine. One small human, standing against a full squad of the Empire's best warriors, and winning. Ethan Brooks, the human liaison, watched quietly from the back of the room. He knew the story well. He had heard about Alex Carter from his own people, but Mara's account was different. She had witnessed it firsthand. Her respect for humans was real. Her voice carried authority, and every alien in the room could feel it. Mara described the final moments of the battle. He was cornered in an alley. My squad had him surrounded. We fired everything we had. I expected him to fall. The energy weapons hit him directly. The armor cracked. He should have been gone. But he stood, calm, smiling faintly, raising his weapon to defend the people in the buildings around him. The recruits stared at her. None of them had ever faced a human like that. They had faced other species, creatures known for their strength, their numbers, their weapons. But none had refused to fall. None had shown courage like this. Mara's voice was steady, but her eyes reflected the shock she had felt. The most surprising part, she continued, was the moment I fired directly at him with my strongest weapon. A white mist appeared around him. The air shimmered. I felt warmth. Though the environment was freezing, my squad froze. Some fled. Others could not move. I stayed. I watched him stand. He did not give up. He never gave up. Kiro swallowed hard. He had always thought he was brave, but he could not imagine standing against Mara herself and surviving. He could not imagine having the courage to fight, even when death seemed certain. Mara had seen it, and now the recruits were beginning to feel it. Mara's voice grew quieter but heavier. He was not afraid. He accepted the danger, yet he continued to fight. Every move was calculated. Every step was precise. He used the environment to his advantage. He protected civilians. He risked his life without hesitation. I realized then why humans tell stories about heroes. Some of their stories are not myths. They are true. The younger soldiers shifted uncomfortably. They had mocked myths. They had laughed at the idea that a human could survive such a fight. Now, they were beginning to doubt everything they had believed. Mara had broken through their arrogance. Garen whispered to Kiro, "Do you think she is exaggerating?" Kiro shook his head. "I don't think so. Her eyes, she looks like she really saw it." Mara noticed the whispers but did not pause. She wanted them to understand fully. "I have fought many warriors in my life. I have defeated enemies stronger than humans. But I have never seen anyone fight with this combination of courage and determination." Alex Carter did not rely on weapons or numbers. He relied on his will. His refusal to give up made him stronger than any weapon, stronger than any squad of soldiers. The room was silent. The recruits could almost see the battle themselves. They imagined the narrow alley, the blasts of energy, the smoke and fire, and the small human soldier who refused to fall. Mara's story was vivid. Her words painted a picture no scanner or data report could provide. Ethan stepped forward slightly. He added, "Humans have a long history of fighting beyond their limits. Sometimes it is fear. Sometimes it is hope. Sometimes it is love for others." What Captain Mara saw was not magic. It was the strength of the human spirit. Some of the recruits shifted uneasily. Fear mixed with admiration. They had trained for battles with many species, but they had never considered humans to be dangerous in this way. Now, they did. Mara leaned forward, her voice firm. "I want you to understand this. The next time you face a human, do not underestimate them. Do not think you can defeat them easily. You may have better weapons, armor, or numbers. It does not matter. Humans are unpredictable. They fight with a willpower that cannot be measured." The room was quiet. Even Kiro, who had mocked humans before, felt a knot in his stomach. He had thought humans were weak. Now he understood that strength was more than size or weaponry. It was courage, determination, and an unbreakable will. Mara continued her story, describing the civilians Alex had protected. He did not fight for glory or for reward. He fought to save lives. He risked himself again and again. Each time he was injured, he recovered. Each time he stumbled, he got back up. His actions inspired those around him. Some of the humans he saved joined the fight, encouraged by his courage. That is why the humans tell these stories. That is why myths exist. To remind others of what courage can do. The recruits whispered among themselves. So the humans really can be this strong? One asked quietly. Mara did not answer. She only nodded. Remember this, Mara said. Alex Carter's story is not the only one. Humans have many soldiers like him. They fight with more than weapons. They fight with their spirit, their determination, and their heart. If you ever face them, you must respect that. You must never forget it. Mara paused, letting her words sink in. The silence in the room was heavy. For the first time, the recruits felt the weight of human courage. They realized they had laughed too soon. They had mocked myths without knowing the truth. Kiro spoke quietly, almost to himself. I think I understand now. It's not about the size of the human. It's about what's inside them. Mara looked at him with a small nod. Yes, that is exactly it. What is inside them can make them unstoppable. One human can make an entire squad hesitate. One human can change the course of a battle. That is what I saw. That is what you must remember. The story continued late into the day. Mara described how Alex had used every skill he knew, every clever trick, and every ounce of courage to survive. She told how her squad had been forced to retreat, confused and exhausted. They had underestimated him. They had thought the human was weak. They were wrong. By the end of the briefing, the recruits were quiet and thoughtful. They had learned something new. They had learned that humans were not simple creatures to be mocked. They had learned that courage and determination could make the smallest soldier a force to be reckoned with. Ethan Brooks watched silently. He felt proud. Mara had seen the truth. She had respected humans for what they were, not what the myths said they might be. And for the first time, the aliens under her command were beginning to understand that humans were different, extraordinary, and dangerous in ways no one had predicted. Mara finished her briefing. Do not forget this story, she said firmly. It is not a myth. It is real. Humans are strong, unpredictable, and capable of things you may never understand. Respect them. Fear them, if you must. But never laugh at their stories again. The recruits left the hall quietly. They spoke in whispers, sharing what they had heard. Kiro and Garen walked together, still shaking their heads in disbelief. Even the older soldiers looked thoughtful, reconsidering everything they had believed about humans. Mara stayed behind, looking at the empty hall. She thought of Alex Carter, the human who had survived impossible odds. She thought of the courage and determination he had shown. And she knew that this story would stay with her forever. Humans were not just small and weak. They were more than anyone had expected. Mara had seen the truth, and it had changed her forever. And she knew one thing clearly. The Varkun Empire had underestimated humans at their own risk.